into the Dynasty Mafia podcast. I'm your host, Antonio Dynasty. Along with me, my brother from another mother, Keenan Jimajich, and also our other co-host, my actual brother, Eric Dynasty. How are we tonight, fellas?
Good.
Good. How about you, Antonio?
I'm fantastic. I am fantastic. I am so glad to be here. Our inaugural episode for the Mafia. And, I hope whomever's listening out there just really gets some enjoyment and some education from us. Whatever education that may be, I guess we'll see. But, so let's talk a little bit about ourselves. Keenan, how long have you been playing fantasy for?
It's been about, I want to say 14, 15 years, I've been, started real small in the four league back in the day, freshman year, 14 league. And now it's grown into 15 leagues and a few dynasty leagues. It consumes a lot of my time, but I started, like I said, freshman year. And I remember a little story. I won't take up that much time here, but when we were freshmen, me and Antonio, we didn't even know each other at the time. And Tuesday morning, didn't know how many touchdowns Antonio Gates scored for Chargers on Monday Night Football. And I'm running up and down the hallway and trying to find out how many touchdowns Antonio Gates scored that night prior. And there's Antonio. He scored 2. And I gave Antonio the biggest hug. And that's when I guess our friendship started. And then here we are 14 years later, 15 years later.
Yeah, what a great run. What a great run it's been. It's been a good time being able to know you that long. And it seems like almost, just yesterday.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Yeah. So I've been playing just about the same amount of time. I don't have any crazy story from memory. Just I played my first year with some more veteran people, and I wound up coming in third that year, and I was kind of hooked, and I've only just gotten more hooked ever since. And I started playing Dynasty about 5 years ago. Started a league with the three of us and some friends, and now I'm up to about 13. So I really love Dynasty, and I'm excited to talk about it. Let's hear from you, Eric.
Yeah, I've been playing fantasy probably about 12 years. Dynasty only about 5 years. But ever since we started, I've been absolutely in love with it. Trying to transition more into just Dynasty. And what really got me into fantasy, to be honest, was probably LaShawn McCoy. Back in his days with the Eagles, I remember drafting him second overall. And that year I won the championship, and ever since that, I've just been in love with it. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're three guys from Buffalo, New York. Just like I said, just excited to get together and talk about football. So speaking of all that, we did just have a draft. What did you guys think about it? I know it was a little different than normal, and obviously exciting with a lot of the spots that some players went. But why don't you just give me a little quick summary and your thoughts about the draft?
I thought the NFL did a great job, for what's going on in the world, obviously. And the only thing that really bugged me was that before every pick, Goodell's like, "Come on, Bills fans, come on, Patriot fans." Just that was really annoying, I guess. But I thought they did a great job. I'm a big March Madness fan. I love seeing players' reactions and watching every player get drafted. It was a little different because this year actually we saw every player get drafted, and you've seen all the raw emotion from these guys. And it's like I said, I love March Madness, and that's where all the emotion comes from in those basketball games. And being able to see it live TV during the NFL was, was a little – it brought a tear to my eye.
Aw.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this draft though, I was jumping here. This draft was, I think it was everything that they promised, to be honest. I mean, there was a ton of great landing spots, I think, even with these wide receivers, especially the running backs, his top five guys. Who would have thought literally everyone would be landing in the top five landing spots? You know what I mean? Um, and then like Keenan said, I think, the virtual draft, they actually did it very well. Some people were complaining from some of the lags and whatnot, but
I
I
mean,
mean,
that's expected to happen.
yeah, like there's not really much they can do about that. It's their first time doing it. I think it was ran very well, and I'd be interested in watching another virtual draft, to be honest.
yeah. I mean, it shattered records as they pointed out. And yeah, the only lag I would complain about is as Keenan mentioned, was when the players got drafted. We kind of saw we saw the cameras, but it was a little late from
Yeah,
kind of when they were
it
going
would
through
show
with
them before they got the phone call,
yeah,
like
which
right
was
after they were picked, and
yeah,
then like, five
it's
ten minutes later,
understandable.
that's when
Yeah,
they
it's
would show their
understandable.
reaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I mean, that's something they could, fix for the next time if they have to. But
Yeah,
overall,
but
It's not an
I
accident.
thought there was going to be a lot more problems, but it was actually ran very well.
I agree. Yeah, I love that sweater Goodell had. He was
He was getting,
definitely a boss in that basement.
as the draft went on, less clothes started coming off. The more clothes started coming off. By the end, he was in a t-shirt. I'm
It
like, what's going on?
gets warm. It gets warm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, carrying off of the draft, we're gonna run over our consensus top 10 here to get us started. Now this is our top 10 for our rookie draft. Basically, what our rankings would be, and we're gonna run through them and just kind of go from there. So, what we want to do is we're gonna start off with our number one, and that's going to be Mr. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the Prince of Hilaire himself. And I think we're going to have Eric start us off talking about Clyde.
Yeah, Clyde. This guy is very interesting because he was actually my number 5 running back pre-draft. Um, which silly me, I should have known. Um, I should have had him higher. I even thought about it before, but I didn't. This guy, he's clearly the best passing running back in the class. Um, he's got good vision. He can make those cuts without slowing down. He's got that jump cut that just makes everybody miss. And this guy, he if you look at his schedule, he faced 8 of the top 20 defenses, and he still produced the way he produced. Um, yeah, he was in the best offense in college history, but he still put up those stats. He had, I want to say, 1,400 rush yards. Um, how many receiving yards did he have? I had it here somewhere.
Well, last year?
Yeah,
Yeah, he had 450 on 55 catches,
50.
453.
But yeah, but still 55 catches. For a college running back, that's great. But like I said, he's the best receiving back in this class. Going to Kansas City, the number 1 landing spot in the draft. Andy Reid already said, he's better than Westbrook was on film. He's ready to get him in this offense, cut him loose, and I'm just very excited to see what he can do. I think you're looking at a guy that's going to be getting at least 70 to 80 catches a year in this offense. He's going to be the workhorse there. Andy Reid throughout history has always used one guy, so I'm not worried about any kind of workload split. I'm not worried about Damian Williams. So yeah, this guy's my number 1.
I would agree with Eric. He's definitely my number 1 as well. Eric pretty much touched base on everything that I was gonna touch base on. The one name that he said there that's very important in my opinion is Andy Reid. This guy has made running backs into superstars. He's taken LaShawn McCoy in the 5th or 4th round, made him a superstar. Brian Westbrook was also one of his running backs that Eric mentioned. he's a little smaller than Mr. Hilaire here, but he made him into a superstar, and honestly, I don't see Hilaire being a bust in an Andy Reid offense, especially with the MVP of the Super Bowl running things in the back in behind center there, and then Patrick Mahomes. A couple other, even Kareem Hunt had a great year with Andy Reid, and if it wasn't Kareem Hunt's off the field issues, maybe Hilaire wouldn't be a Chief right now. But I have the first pick overall in 2 leagues, and woke up today, and if the draft was today in both those leagues, he'd be my number 1.
Yeah, and speaking to Pat Mahomes, they called Pat Mahomes and they were like, "Hey, who do you want?" And he wanted Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So that just speaks. He wanted him. Andy Reid wanted him. The owner wanted him. The GM wanted him. Everybody wanted him. They loved this guy. They're excited to get him in that offense.
They all love him, and they're not going to not use him. That's what
Yeah.
I could see him getting close to Christian McCaffrey numbers. Not saying he will. I'm just saying he can get very close in those.
Even if not, if he can get Kareem Hunt numbers, that's still a top 5 running back.
You're going to get your money's worth, and that's why where I'm standing at 1. If I'm holding 1 in first pick overall in the draft, I'm not trading out of it unless I'm getting a Brinks truck pulled into my driveway out back here. So
yeah, I already know about that one.
Yeah. So what about you, Antonio? What do you think here?
So I'm not as high as the 2 of you are on him. I mean, you're going to hear it from us, I'm sure. Like, we're probably going to change these guys around a lot before we get to August because there's a lot of good talent. But right now, I actually have him at 4, and he compares a lot to me like Mark Ingram when I watch him play. And I think he is the best catcher in the class for running backs. And like, I'll just echo kind of what you guys said. He's got a very low center of gravity, and he really does make the first guy miss so often. And he's just got great ball security, and he's 207 pounds. I mean, that's a big guy for being 5'7". So I think he's really good. But
that's why I'm not really worried about the size either, because he's stocky. He could take those hits.
Brian Westbrook was bigger than him.
Exactly. But the thing with me is, I think what people are going to rely on though is the high touchdowns for him to get what you want, because you're going to get receptions. You absolutely are, but you're going to expect over double digit every year, and that's what I'm hoping he can get. Now, what I think he can mirror is probably what Mark Ingram's season was in 2017 with New Orleans, which was 230 carries, 1,124 yards, 12 touchdowns on the ground, and 58 catches for another 400 yards, and I'm sure he'll get a few touchdowns. I mean, I'm sure, like you said, he'll get in probably the 60, 70 range. So you're probably looking at 1,600 total yards and hopefully double-digit touchdowns. I mean, he's going to be good. But I think the other talent here is, as we'll talk about, is also really good. So with that, I do want to –
absolutely.
Yeah, I think you guys definitely hit the nail on the head with him. He's definitely going to be good. And to move over to – wow, hey, here we are. Yeah, but I'm going to move over to my number 1, actually, and that's Jonathan Taylor, the running back with the Indianapolis Colts. So they took him in the 2nd round, and I just think he went to the exact spot he needed to go, and that was – he's a big guy. He's 5'11", 219. He's just he's got an amazing production in college. He's got a couple 2,000-yard seasons. He's got a lot of touchdowns. He's just shown it all, and he had an amazing offensive line in college, and he's going to move over to that same thing. He's got the most rushing yards through a junior season in NCAA history, 12 games, 200-plus yards. I mean, there's just so much you're obviously hearing about him. And I just think he's going to come right in, knock out Marlon Mack, unfortunately, and I think Nyheim Hines will probably be that 3rd down back for the most part, but JT is going to get the ball, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do.
Yeah, for sure. He's And you mentioned he had a couple seasons over 2,000. Even his freshman year, he had 1,977. So he was right there. So 3 years at 2,000 yards. The production this kid put out is just absolutely insane. Everyone's gonna say, he had that awesome offensive line, but
He has another awesome offensive line.
yeah, and he's going to another great offensive line. But what I want to say to that is, how many of these college running backs have had amazing offensive lines, and how many of them were top 5 all-time college running backs?
Yeah.
That doesn't just happen. He's got great vision. He can get through the smallest holes, and he's got that breakaway speed. Once he's in the open, you're not catching him. He's going to be great in this Colts offense, I think. He's going to knock Mac probably in training camp. I think he'll be named the starter. Maybe not, but I don't think the Colts want Mac at all. They're ready to move on from him. They're bringing in their new guy. And yeah, I'm not really too worried about the passing game, because I do think he can catch some balls. I'm not really too worried about that. He showed in 2019 that he can do that. And Phillip Rivers is going to want to check down to him. So yeah, he's my number. He's my number 3. Number 4. He's my number 4 actually. But we'll talk about who I have ahead of him later.
Yeah, if you traded for Marlon Mack, I feel bad for you. Frank Wright just got his guy in there. Marlon Mack will either be traded before the season starts, or he'll be let go at the end of the year. This, like we mentioned before the draft, I was so worried with the whole offensive line thing that Eric mentioned, and this couldn't be a more perfect spot for him. He's got a veteran running back. He is a running back, veteran quarterback running the offense there in Phillip Rivers, and that great offensive line. He's going to produce. My concern with him, he might not produce year one, is if Marlon Mack is still there. And I have him at 2 because I think I think that eventually he's going to be the number 1 as the year goes on. But after this year, he's going to be the true number 1 with Hines running on third downs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I think Mac is supplanted because Mac only costs like $2.5 million. It's not like he's worth much that's going to be detrimental to them. They really could cut him if they want, but I'm sure they'll want him as depth. But also, they did run the ball the 4th most times last year, so they do have that going for them. And yeah, like you said, Wright got his guy. I don't think it's a coincidence. Played where Melvin Gordon played, coming out of Wisconsin. So he obviously was the offensive coordinator with the Chargers for a few years, playing with Melvin Gordon. I think we're going to see some really good things out of him. So let's go to our third consensus. That's going to be J.K. Dobbins, running back for Baltimore Ravens. I've got him as my 3rd. Eric, who's got him as his 2nd, and then Keenan's got him as his 5th. So I want to hear Eric's case for him at number 2.
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely in love with J.K. Dobbins. I absolutely love his landing spot. I think he's gonna be great there with Lamar. This guy, I had him number 1 before the draft too. He's just that guy who can do everything. I feel like he's going to be good in the passing game. He's not the best, but he's going to be just fine there. He's going to be, just that guy that's going to be an elite every down guy. At least I believe so. He's got great vision. He's always gaining those extra yards. There's a play I saw him. He's just 180 degrees. His body is over this pile, and his legs are in the air, and he's still chopping them, trying to gain those extra yards. He's always falling forward. He makes guys miss. He can get out in the open field, and he's got pretty good speed. So yeah, I love him landing in Baltimore. I know everyone's worried about Ingram, but he's on the other side of 30 now. If they cut him after June 1st, I believe they can save $4 million. I don't think that's going to happen. The only reason he's not my number 1 is because I do think Ingram's going to be there for another year. But next year, if they cut Ingram, they'll save $5 million. So I think that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I have him at 5. I was absolutely shocked when the Ravens took him. They have a pretty crowded backfield there with Ingram, Gus Edwards, and Justice Hill. Is that his name?
Justice Hill, yeah.
But doing some research on him and, coming across this one stat that had me, okay, I agree with the pick. The Ravens ran the most RPO rushing attempts last year. Dobbins in his career in college has run 57% of his plays were RPO, 171 carries altogether. So it's a steep bit. So it's perfect with that. I'm not a big Lamar Jackson fan because I think he needs to figure out, the passing game down the sidelines. But it's perfect with the double rushing attack that Lamar Jackson and Dobbins can bring to the Ravens. And if it works, it's scary because
it's going to be very scary.
I do it in Madden, and it works for me. So I don't see why the Ravens be able to figure it out. But Dobbins, he's a proven winner. He went to a Power 5 high school. He was a 4-star recruit. He had a great college career. He's gonna be good. I just want to mention one more thing. I said earlier, Allaire, he faced 8 of the top 20 defense, but it was actually Dobbins. I had it written down here wrong. Dobbins is the one who faced 8 top 20 defenses. Yeah.
And he still this year put up over 2,000 yards on that. So I think that does say something.
And that could have been both of them because they're in the same. They're both in the SEC.
Yeah,
so
it could have been
played,
both.
Yeah, I think
both,
they probably was.
I'm sure they both did.
They played a lot of talent, and Keenan, it doesn't sound like you're number 5 there with the way you were talking.
No, I woke up. He was at 5, but tomorrow I might go to bed. He might be at 2.
Yeah, man.
I do like him. I really do. Like I said, I was shocked that the Ravens took him, but with the whole scheme that they run on offense, hey,
Yeah, I kind of expected they would take a running back, and like I said, I have him at 3rd, and the Ravens did lead the league last year in rush attempts with 37, which was almost 5 more than the second closest. And Ingram had a very productive season last year, and I think, especially at the age of 29, that's something Dobbins can definitely replicate, and that would definitely bring double-digit touchdowns. And I think he's only going to bring a lot of good things to the Ravens offense. I mean, he's got elite lateral movement. Sorry, fellas, I can't talk right now. He's extremely efficient. He's durable. He also had a 2,000-yard season last year, and I think there's a lot going for him. But he does need to work on his pass protection. Not too much with it being Lamar, who runs a lot, but just in general, they're going to need someone to protect Lamar still. And he is more explosive after the line of scrimmage more than it is before, but I think that having Lamar with that will also help him. So I'm really excited for J.K. Dobbins. And another guy I was really excited for is actually DeAndre Swift, running back for Detroit. He may not have the best landing spot, as we'll talk about, but he was at least my number 1 and a lot of people's number 1s going into the draft. He's 5'9", 215, and I'm a little lower than the other 2 guys, so I'm gonna let one of you two try to sell me first.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I'll go. I had him ranked as my number 3 guy. This guy before the draft, he was everybody's, I want to say, pretty much clear-cut number 1, talent-wise. He's got good initial reads. He's got elite vision. He's got great balance, can take hits well. He's got that dirty dead leg move. He's got that real smooth spin move. He could do it all. He's going to be a 3-down back. I know everyone's a little bit worried about Carrion, but I think this clearly showed that they're ready to move on from Carrion. I think you could see a trade, or maybe he's just their backup until his contract runs up. I don't know exactly what they plan on doing. But yeah, I'm not really too worried about that. He's much more talented than Carrion. I think they drafted him to be everything that they wanted Carrion to be. Um, and yeah, this is Patricia's guy. Let's hope he actually sticks to that and uses them.
Yeah, once again, this guy, just like Dobbins, he goes up and down my board. I got him at 3 as well, just on talent wise. But like you said, Carrion does scare me. The other thing that also scares me is there going to be a new coach in Detroit? And are we going to be talking about them drafting their guy in Detroit?
Yeah, they did say. I did hear that I guess a lot of people in that organization just don't like Patricia. So that'll be interesting.
So, are we confident that
I might have to make an on-camera move, Jonathan Taylor to 3. I probably should have. I mean, I don't know why I had not had him there, but
like we said, I think our rankings are going to go up and down as we talk and as the offseason moves on. But that's one thing that I'm concerned about because I have a lot of stock in Kerryon Johnson. I tried to trade him before the year started, and Antonio told me, these guys are scouting running backs, scouting running. I'm like, no, they're not. But now I'm thinking, okay, if Patricia doesn't make it at the end of the year, are the new coaching staffs going to be scouting running backs in 2 years? And do you have yourself another Kerryon Johnson situation in Swift? I hope not. I love Swift. I think he is a better player than Kerryon. Hopefully he stays healthy, unlike Kerryon did. And like you mentioned, he is what they wanted Kerryon Johnson to be. Eventually, he might. I think out of this rookie class, I think he is the true one of the true running backs that can carry the load all 3 downs. And that's where I'm at. I think just because of that alone, he deserves to be in your top 3.
Yeah, there is a lot of good things about him. I really love the player. And as I mentioned, I just hate the landing spot. You guys kind of hit on both the good and the bad. And I don't know. I think he's going to be there, though, even when they switch over because he is that good. He really just does everything.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about a coaching change. I think whoever goes in there is going to be absolutely excited to have this guy.
Yeah, I'm sure they would. I just that's got to be in the back of your head as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Marlon Mack had a great few years before Frank Reich got in there, and look what happened. Just
that's true. But like I said, he was my number 1 going in. He's down to number 7 overall for me, but he's at least my number 4 running back. I'm excited to see what he can do there, and I hope they cater to him. I really do. But speaking of cater to, Cam Akers, drafted by the Los Angeles Rams,
you have
kind of a backfield.
High up there, so why don't you start us off this time?
Yeah, I've got him real high, so that's why I'm kind of hoping that he does get catered to, being into a backfield there. But no, I really love this guy. He reminds me a lot of Joe Mixon, and I love me some Joe Mixon. He's 5'10", 217. He comes from Florida State, who had one of the worst offensive lines in all of NCAA. And, he still had production through it. And I think he has fantastic instincts. He shows a lot of patience. His eyes are always forward. His feet are always moving. He barely ever gets negative yardage. Yeah, he was hit at the line of scrimmage a lot and was still able, like I said, to average over 5 yards a carry his senior year. He's got a nose for the red zone too. He sees daylight. Once he hits a secondary, he's instantly trying to go for gold, and I love that about him. He's extremely explosive. There are a few negatives. He does need to work on his hands a little bit, but I think that's going to come because I think he's going to be rotated in anyways, especially on 3rd down. He was always in a lot of play action and shotgun, and the Rams do run a good amount of that. So I think that's a big reason because he's already fit in the scheme, and I think they really I think they love him over there, and I'm super excited for him. I also think he's going to get the starting role right away. I know I mentioned they'll work him in, but at least the 1st and 2nd down role. So that's kind of why I have him all the way up there at number 2. Is I think he has a super high ceiling, but I think you guys are way too low on him.
These general managers and coaches are trying to screw me in fantasy, okay? I have Darrell Henderson, and I went into the draft. I'm like, there's no way they draft a running back. They invested so much capital in that running back position. They have Henderson, they have Malcolm Brown, John Kelly. I'm like, they could roll with these three, and there they are taking Akers. So the reason I have Akers so low is it's gonna be a committee. You might have him at 1, Antonio, but is he a 1 with 10 carries a game?
I haven't 1 for the team, but he's my 2 overall. But
yeah, that's what I meant on their team.
Well, I mean, absolutely. Like they also, as I mentioned, with running, the Rams ran the ball the 3rd most times in the league, and even if you give the other running backs 15 carries, I mean that still gives him almost 20 carries. I know that they had Gurley, but they want to run the ball, and I think he's going to be in line for 18 to 20 touches. I really do.
I better have a 2 running back setback there with Goff in the backfield.
Yeah, no. This was I definitely like this landing spot. Like I said, I was gonna like whoever ended up in the Rams. And I liked Cam Akers before. I don't think we're low on him. These top 5 guys are just so good, and they all have a pretty good landing spot. And it's tough to put him any higher, I feel like. I mean, he looks like he has a ton of potential. He's explosive. He's fast. He had a 4.47 40. And he's got that good vision. He can create a lot on his own. And when you're trying to look for negatives in his game, all you can think is that because of how bad his offensive line was. And he's just was that in college, yeah. But he's not going to a good offensive line in the NFL either, which is also why I can't really put him much higher, because kind of like in college, how you don't really know what his true potential was. I mean, I do trust Sean McVay is going to be able to get everything he can out of him, but I do think they need to work on that offensive line and upgrade there for him to get ahead of these other guys.
Yeah, I know that that you don't think that sounds low, but I think that, at least in my opinion, his path right now to that starting role compared with Dobbins and Swift is more clear. And
I agree. I agree with you there. I do think he's going to be the starter. So I do see your point there, but it's tough because I never was a big fan of Henderson. So I don't think he's going to have a tough time securing that spot. But
yeah,
that team just in general is just not as good when they don't have a good offensive line there. I mean, obviously everyone's going to be that way, but Goff just folds under pressure. This just in general, just how is the whole team going to be? We'll see. I really thought they were going to upgrade that offensive line during this draft, but they.
Yeah, that's what I was about to mention.
When did they even draft? What round was it that they drafted their first offensive lineman?
I don't even know if they did. To be honest, no, they didn't.
I'm gonna double check now.
Yeah, they had a running back, wide receiver, a linebacker, 2 safeties, and a tight end.
Yeah.
Which I do love that Bryson Hopkins pick on a short note.
Yeah. It's just strange. I thought they were gonna do something there. I mean, I definitely love the landing spot still there with Sean McVay in that offense, but yeah, I just think he's, again, like in college, I think he's going to be somewhat limited, but he's going to be a little bit more explosive than Gurley was last year. So, maybe they'll be able to trust him a little bit more, because I think Gurley was held back because of that knee, or I think the team was holding him back because of that knee in a way. Maybe he looked different too. So we'll see. He could be very good. I agree there.
Anything you want to hone in on there, Keenan?
I think Big E covered it all. He took the words right out of my mouth.
That's what I like to do.
Awesome. Well, then why don't you get us moved over to finally a position change with our number 6 wide receiver,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and talk about CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver from Dallas.
yeah, my boy. He's a big guy. 6'2", 189 pounds. Had a pretty good 13 games last year in college. I have him at 4 in my top 10. I just think it's a perfect fit. I think that offense in Dallas is going to take the next step. He's not going to walk in there and have to be the number 1 for a long time with that big contract that they just signed Amari Cooper to. And as much as I hate to say it, Dak Prescott has improved as the years have gone by. So, and now that they made a coaching change and Mike McCarthy has taken over the. I don't know if he's going to take over the play calling, but he's a head coach over there, and he's an offensive mind head coach. So I could see that offense taking the next step, and definitely, I could see him becoming a true number 1. Maybe not this year, but maybe 2-3 years from now, as Amari Cooper gets a little older. But having Amari Cooper learn from and Amari Cooper to take pressure off him is going to just open up the field for him.
Absolutely. And not only Amari Cooper, but they got Gallup there still too.
Yeah.
He's going to be potentially facing the third best cornerback whoever's guarding him. You know what I mean? This guy, he's actually number 5 for me. I have him at 5 and Akers at 6. So, maybe I'm a little low on Akers, but but for him, he's my number 1 running back or wide receiver, in this class. He's great at everything. He's great after the catch. Did you know 1,500 of its 3,200 total yards came after the catch? It seems crazy to me. He's a good ball tracker. He's great at adjusting midair. He dominates the sideline. He's good at high pointing the ball. He's a good blocker. He reminds me a lot of Devontae Adams. I think this he's going to be an elite wide receiver in the NFL. And when you look at the contracts over in Dallas, Gallup's up after 2021, and Amari Cooper is no longer guaranteed after 2021. So a lot can happen over the next 2 years. So, and I think he's a guy that can contribute now, just because he's going to, he's not going to be facing the top coverage. He's just going to dominate. So yeah, I love him.
I love him. I love him a lot too. I do have him at 8 overall. He's my 3rd wide receiver, but I just, my problem is where he is, and like you said, that's their contract up after 2021. That's 2 more seasons, and for me, that's just.
But how long do wide receivers? How long you normally, going to give wide receivers to develop? I mean, most of the time they're taking a couple years to develop, anyways. Not all the time, obviously, but most of the time when you're drafting wide receivers, they're going to take a little bit of time to develop.
And I can agree with all of that you're saying, but kind of like the same argument with Gallup is like, oh, Gallup was facing the number 2 last year and he had some good games, but now it's like, okay, well, Gallup's facing the number 2 who has some good games. So now he's facing the 3rd option. He's going to have some good games. Well, Amari has to get his good games in, and then Zeke has to. Dak had 4,900 yards and 30 touchdowns last year. I don't know if he can throw for 4,900 yards again. He threw the ball 596 times, and Rodgers only threw over 600 times twice with Rodgers. Or I'm sorry, McCarthy, when he had Rodgers, they only threw over 600 times twice. And I just don't know if there's enough to go around for the next 2 years, whereas you'll have, as we'll mention, a couple other receivers.
It's not going to be it's not going to be very consistent, but you're going to have those games where I feel like he's going to go off. He's going to have a couple multi-touchdown games, and he's just going to slowly develop over the year into a guy that I think he's going to overtake Michael Gallup at some point, even if it's not this year, at least next year. Like I said, Gallup's contract is up after 2021. Cooper is not guaranteed after 2021. In 2 years, this guy's going to be 23 years old, and he's going to be an elite wide receiver. Look at everyone. Look at other people. Like I have him comp to Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams took a couple years to develop.
takes time.
Hopkins took a couple years to develop. Not all these
I
guys come out like Mike Evans and just have 1,000-yard seasons right off the bat year after year.
That's what I'm looking. I'm looking into 3 years in the future. I'm not looking this year.
So I'm saying he's going to be 23 years old. He's going to be Prescott's number one target. Well, potentially, depending on what happens with Cooper at the time, if they decide to trade him, or if they're getting rid of Gallup or Cooper after 2021. That's pretty much a guarantee at this point. But I do love this for Dak Prescott. I think he's going to have a fantastic year.
I think he will too. I don't know if he'll hit the 5,000 yards or right close there.
Maybe
again.
not 5,000, but I think he's going to be 4,500 plus potentially.
Yeah,
I mean,
4,
this offense is going to be one of the scarier offenses in the league.
Oh, absolutely.
And they had
like I said,
it'd be nice if they had a tight end.
Sorry?
It'd be nice if they had a tight end.
Yeah, I mean, Blake Jarwin, he might be on the spot for some more targets this year, but I don't think they need to get more targets right now. But the one thing I want to kind of mention is, like I said, Dak had 4,900 yards. That's just over 300 yards a game on a 16-game pace, but he only had over 300 yards in 7 of those games, so less than half. So that shows you how up and down he kind of was. So I don't know if I'm ready for that ride for the next 2 years when there's a few more wide receivers that I think can make a bigger impact right now. And one of those I want to move over to is Justin Jefferson, the wide receiver from Minnesota, who I have as my number 1 wide receiver. And I just am enamored over this guy. I'm taking him pretty much at 105 in non-super flex and probably 107 in some super flexes. I'm just really excited for him. He's at LSU on the championship team. He's 6'3", 192. He's a big guy. He comps out to Juju Smith-Schuster from Pittsburgh, and I think he's going to be a slot guy, kind of how they had Diggs, and they'll play him on the outside. You know, he played about 65% in the slot at LSU, but they had a lot of talent on the outside. He ran a 4.43 40, so he can run. He knows how to use that size. He just looks so smooth the way he just any time that he moves, he's got breakaway speed. He knows how to do it in every single way. You know, he can run multiple routes. He's great with the route tree. He does need to work on his second foot placement when he comes down with a catch, but like on the ground, he's just fantastic. You know, he's also showed some great times where he can high point the ball and adjust midair. And I don't know. I got so many good things to say about him. I think they did a great job with trading away Diggs and then replacing him with someone that could potentially be that same level, if not better. And I think that's what he's going to do, and that's why I think he's my number 1 wide receiver. So, what do you guys got to say about that?
I agree with everything you're saying. I really like this guy too. I potentially have him as my. I believe I have him as my number two wide receiver right behind CD right now. I agree. They did a great job with replacing Diggs. Obviously, I love Diggs. You know, I don't think Jefferson is going to come in and just instantly be Diggs. He's going to take some time to develop there. But like he's another one. You know, in 2 years, you know, he's going to be taking over that number 1 spot for Adam Thielen, who's on the other side of 30 now too. You know, this guy's great. He gets those contested catches. He's good at creating separation. He just, you know, everything when he's out there, when you're watching him, it's just like it looks easy for him in a way. And I don't know how much that is, you know, because of the offense he was in or if it was just because of him. But it seemed like almost every play he was getting open and it was just easy for him. And this guy, he was in the 90th percentile for contested catches. Like he caught that many of contested catches. That just doesn't happen. And NFL average is like the 45th percentile, I believe. So yeah, being, you know, 50% over that.
And how many guys in the slot can you say that about?
Not many.
That's why like he's gonna go all over. And
he could play outside
18,
in the slot.
Yeah,
he could do it all.
He had 18 touchdowns. There was a game, not to interrupt you, but like I said, I love him. There was a game where he had 3 touchdowns, and all 3 of them were different ones. One when he split 2 defenders, one was a contested catch, and one he just made a fantastic route run that just got him open, and he bursted. I mean,
And the thing about when you're looking at these wide receivers and trying to predict, how they're going to adjust to the NFL, some of the 2 biggest things you're looking for are contested catches and can they create separation. And this guy can do both. So yeah, I think he's in a great landing spot. He potentially could produce 70. I think he can get probably in the 70 to 80, maybe even 90 target range. Not quite the 100 that Diggs had, I don't think, right off the bat. But again, he's eventually going to take over there as the number 1.
Don't worry, Bills fans. Stephon Diggs, it will be better than him. But I think Minnesota drafted Kirk Cousins' best friend. Kirk Cousins can be inaccurate sometimes, and you guys both touched on it. Is him able to grab the ball that are contested, as Eric said. However, his route running is what scares me. He is really good in the slot, we mentioned. However, when he was put outside, he struggled. His route running needs to improve to become that true number 1. Where in Dallas with Lamb, I think he can possibly be a true number 1 next year if he was in a better landing spot than Dallas. So that's where my thing is with him is if he can improve his route running, he will be that true number 1. But if he doesn't improve that true number 1, he doesn't improve his route running where he can be used on the outside by the sidelines, he's going to struggle being a true number 1.
Well, I think they are going to help him out with that, and I think he will make that jump. And like Eric mentioned, he's a fantastic contested catch player. So on the outside, he's going to show that. I know, like I said, he's got to work on that second foot placement when he comes down, but I think it's going to work for him. And route running, like I said, it's going to come. He is just so good in my mind, and he's just so polished with what he does. And like you mentioned, like we were saying, he had Burrow. Burrow threw 76.3% completion percentage. That's insane. And you know who else is really good at completing the football? Kirk Cousins. So he had 18 touchdowns last year. Justin Jefferson did. So I'm really excited
against SEC defenses too.
Yeah.
The problem is Kirk Cousins is going to be there when he's a true number 1. When he's the number 1.
If not, then I think he's going to be that kind of player though that he can create them himself. Like we said, I think Juju showed a glimpse of what he could do with below average quarterback play. And I think that's the same stuff Justin Jefferson can break out. So I think we're going to move along to our number 8, and that's going to be another wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy. He got drafted by Denver, and I think we're going to let Eric start us off talking about Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah. So pre-draft, I had this guy at number 2. ahead of Justin Jefferson, but after the draft, I had to switch that up. I don't know how much I like the landing spot in Denver. I mean, there's Noah Fant, there's Cortland Sutton, obviously, Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon. How much can Drew Lock really spread the ball around to these guys and make multiple fantasy producers? I think everything's going to rely on him. But when just talking about him, he's the best route runner in this class, clearly. Don't even think that's close. He's got great agility. He's got those loose hips. He can change direction on a dime. He's great after the catch too. He's got those dirty juke moves. He creates separation. This guy can really do it all. There are some things when you're looking at the negatives in this game. He does need to play a little bit more physical, I think. And a lot of people are worried about the drops that he have. I do think most of them are more, concentration drops that can be fixed. So I'm not too worried about that. But I'm not super excited about his landing spot. But I still have him as my number 3 just because of the talent.
I agree, Eric. The landing spot is what scares me. If they had a better quarterback, that Denver Broncos team would be dangerous. All those
and they drafted KJ Hamler in the second.
It's just, I
That's what I was going to mention.
I hope for their case, Drew Lock, becomes who they think he can become. But he produced in Alabama with different quarterbacks. He had Jalen Hurts there and also Tua. So maybe I'm not saying Jalen Hurts and Tua are I'm not saying Drew Lock is better than those two, but I'm just saying he's produced with two different quarterbacks where he can possibly just produce with Drew Lock as well. And if Drew Lock can find a way to spread the ball around, that whole Denver offense is going to be dangerous.
They will be dangerous, but like Eric mentioned, he's got to throw the ball more. I know it was a very limited sample size with Locke, but he only threw the ball 31 times a game.
Yeah.
And one of them he actually threw over 40, so it kind of elevated it. I do think they're going to throw it a little bit more, but even if they throw it 35 times a game and he's getting 30%, which is insane, nobody really gets that. Even if he gets 25% on 36 targets, that's not going to be bad, but that's not the production you're going to get.
Well, let's not forget to mention also they have a true number one in Cortland Sutton, and
exactly right.
How much is that true number one going to take away from him? And there's two big factors there: Cortland Sutton and Drew Lock.
And Noah Fant. And I'm gonna guess Hamlin's gonna replace Deshaun Hamilton. So
if you're drafting him, you're looking probably this is a future pick for you to see how it works out. Don't expect much from him this year, I would say. You guys agree?
Yeah. For Judy.
He's going to be facing, the second coverage. So, he has a lot of potential just because of how talented he is. It just comes down to how good Locke's really going to be. It's a very small sample size, which scares me for all the weapons there. Because, like you said, this could be a very good team. They still have a good defense that has Von Miller, leading the charge there. So they could be a competing team, but it depends what Drew Lock does. So if you're confident in Drew Lock, then I think you should be very confident in Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, I've currently got Jerry Jeudy statted for 92 targets, 62 catches. That's the thing is I got him for about 771 yards, but I've only got him for 6 touchdowns. So
that sounds about good there.
Yeah, I'm working on it. We're gonna see how that progresses through the offseason. But the problem is they just, like I said, they just got to throw it more. But if that offense can develop, like you said, they'll definitely be dangerous as a whole. But Cortland Sutton's going to get his, and they're going to want to get the ball to Noah Fant too.
I think this is even worse for Sutton, to be honest.
And Melvin Gordon.
It could maybe help Sutton actually, since he has he has another talented guy on the other side compared to what he had last year.
Who should have went there? If the draft was before free agency, Tom Brady could have went there. Pulled a Peyton Manning.
Yeah,
that would have made me probably sick to my stomach for not being a Broncos fan. Yeah, that'd be kind of crazy. Well, let's talk a little bit now about our number 9 wide receiver, Jalen Reagor, also wide receiver, going to the Philadelphia Eagles. Drafting him, what was that, number 22, I believe, right?
Yes. No, the Eagles were after the Bills, right? 22, yep.
Yeah, so he's 5'11", 206. Played at TCU with, we'll call that very subpar quarterback play. Ran a 4.47 40, so we know he's fast. And he kind of surprised some people with the pick, but I think that he actually fits really well with that offense. He reminds me a lot of Emmanuel Sanders, kind of like Tyler Lockett. I really think he's going to be a player that maybe can be very efficient on limited amount of targets. I think that he's going to go into that offense this year. He's probably going to see 90 to 100 targets. I really think that Philly's going to throw the ball some more, and I think he might get used on special teams a little bit too. He does really well in space, and he's a very, very high yak guy. He's very explosive, and I think he's just going to go in there and do anything that they ask of him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
sorry.
I think this is someone that Eagles team has been missing for a while. They tried to do it with Deshaun Jackson, try to bring him back for the third time, and he couldn't stay on the field last year. And I think this is what they were missing: a quick, speedy wide receiver that can make 30-yard catches and take them to the house, or catch a 5-yard out and take it to the house. So I think this is a perfect fit for him with Carson Wentz running the offense, and who's their coach? Peterson.
Doug Peterson, yeah.
He's gonna find a way to use him, and I think he landed in a better spot than the other two wide receivers that we talked about, but just on talent wise, that's why I had him a little lower.
Yeah, I wasn't as high on Rager before the draft, but now I love the landing spot. I really like what his potential could be in here. He's very fast. He's got good bursts. He's not a huge guy, but he does run strong. This guy, for 5'11", he can high point the ball. He's got a 42-inch vertical. And what some people don't know is he actually had a workout in Houston where he apparently ran a 4.28, and I heard a 4.22 also. I don't know how true that is. I mean, it's obviously unofficial, I believe.
Yeah, I heard that as well.
But
Take
apparently
it did it.
There are NFL scouts that were there that say it did happen. So his 40 time at the combine was a little disappointing, but it was still very good, obviously. But for what they were saying he could do. But did you actually know, he was playing with a freshman quarterback who was not very good. 30.77% of his targets in 2019 were accurate. And
wow.
That's it.
Yeah, I did say subpar. I was being very generous.
People want to say that he didn't really produce much.
Is a good quarterback?
Was that?
You don't think Max Duggan is a good quarterback?
Yeah, but people are worried about saying he didn't have a ton of production, but that's what he was working with. He had a much better season in 2018. I just think that offense this year just really held him back. But there were some also the other things. When the ball wasn't going his way, it does look like he took some plays off, got a little lazy.
Yeah, he definitely got frustrated with the quarterback play on some of the plays.
Yeah.
And he showed it on the field.
But now he's going to Carson Wentz, so
yeah, I don't think.
So I think things are going to be much better for him. I like this landing spot for him.
Yeah, I really do think it's a great spot. I don't think he's going to be a true number one. I think he's going to need that number one on the side for him all the time. But I think he's going to be real good against those number twos.
Yeah.
So let's get to our final spot here, our number 10, and it is going to be Joe Burrow, the number one overall pick, quarterback to the Cincinnati Bengals. Former Tiger from LSU. So Keenan and I are a little higher on him than Eric is, as Keenan flashes the Burrow LSU jersey.
Hey, buddy.
No, but this is pretty easy. I mean, to have him number one for our quarterback, but to get him into the top 10, and we really think that he's going to be extremely impactful. And at least speaking for me, the man had one of the best season, the best statistical season in NCAA history. So I think he's going to translate to a really good offense, at least on paper wise. I don't think many quarterbacks can go in and have a veteran wide receiver who was elite and would like to show those pieces in AJ Green. You have Tyler Boyd coming into his own, John Ross, a former top 10 pick, Joe Mixon's a great running back. That line's getting healthy. I mean, there's a lot.
T. Higgins also drafted in the second round. I think they're stacked. And not many rookie quarterbacks can say they walked into an offense that can be a powerhouse like that. And hopefully, last season for that coaching staff was just a fluke, and they got lucky by being able to draft Joe Burrow. And I think Antonio, you mentioned it the other day when we were discussing. I think he can be better than Murray from Arizona. I really do. I think he flashed. He had such a great season. I'm not an LSU fan, but watching him play last year was just there's so many jaw-dropping plays. I think in the playoff game, there was like 4 guys around him. He spun around, took 2 steps forward, and threw like a 65-yard pass down the field. Unfortunately, it got called back. I don't know if you guys remember it or not. I think it was a championship game. It was one of the more entertaining quarterbacks to watch in my 29 years of living on this beautiful earth of ours.
It was obviously it was a great season, one of the best in history. And he's going to be probably a fantastic quarterback in the NFL. If it's a super flex league, he's obviously the 101. But for me in a 1 QB league, I can't get him into my top 10. He's not even in my top, 12, 13 either. I think there's so many skill position guys that are going to be very impactful. And there's still guys on the board that have great landing spots and have so much potential that I just think you need to take them over a quarterback right now, especially in a 1 QB league, just because.
The problem is, how confident are you that any of those players behind him that we have him that we rank behind him are going to be as successful as Joe Burrow will be in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, Eric, the guy averaged almost 400 yards, over 400 yards, and 4 touchdowns a game. I mean, I know he was in a pro style offense, but I just
I'm not trying.
I'm not
be so.
Right,
so
no,
wanna...
hear me out for 1 second. Mm-hmm. So I think that he's going to be a top 10 quarterback, and I think that a quarterback that has that kind of capability, and that's just even, I think that's even for the very near future. Long term, I really think he could hit the top 5, and I think that kind of a quarterback later, deserves to be drafted in the first round.
Yeah,
especially in 10 or 12 team leagues. But I can understand having him lower.
After next year, he's not going to have AJ Green. Is T Higgins going to be good? A lot of people don't think he's really going to be anything that great in the NFL. I mean, at first he was very high on people's boards, but throughout the combine, the draft process, he fell a lot. Obviously, he was drafted on top of the second round, but so he didn't drop, too far. But he's no AJ Green. So he's going to have Higgins, Tyler Boyd next year. Obviously, Joe Mixon, as long as they can extend him to a contract for the future. I mean, I obviously I see the upside. I see all the potential, but I do think there is still a world where he's not as great as you guys say. He's going to take time to develop. I mean, is that offensive line going to stay healthy? We obviously hope they're going to, but when this guy doesn't have a good offensive line, when they're not blocking 6 guys, he does struggle. So
let me put you on the spot. Do you think Joe Burrow has a worse season than Murray did last year?
A worse season? Murray had a pretty good season though, fantasy wise.
What I'm saying.
I like Kyler Murray definitely ahead of him for fantasy purposes, just because the rushing.
The 2 rookies, if you're comparing his rookie year and Joe Burrow's rookie year, who had a better rookie year? Just a prediction. If you got to think about it, Joe Burrow has to be time.
All right, that's fair. Well, here's my argument against it. It's just because it's a 1 QB league. If it was super flex, he's the 101. But for me, when I'm constructing my roster, if I got a guy like Henry Ruggs who was just drafted 12th overall on the board, I'm going to take him, and then I'll have the 11th best quarterback. I'm fine with that. We obviously know in a 1 QB league that you can make that work. You can have a couple of guys that are 10 through 20, and you can make it work for your QB. I'm not really too worried about that for a 1 QB league.
Antonio, just remember this conversation when Eric's looking for a quarterback in the future.
Well, how about this? I will. But let me ask you this right now. How
Go
about
look
this?
at my teams and what was that?
So, would you rather have Jared Goff or Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
Would you rather have Matthew Stafford or Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
Would you rather have Aaron Rodgers or Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
One more. Would you rather have Matt Ryan or Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow. Do one more. Who's the next guy?
Carson Wentz.
Joe Burrow.
Right now, I'll take Carson Wentz.
Okay, I'll ask the next one. Baker Mayfield.
Joe Burrow.
I'll take Baker.
Oh,
all right, so it stops for you, Eric. That would make Joe Burrow your quarterback 10.
Okay, that's fair.
That's where he had him, though. He said he could have him at 11 too.
Yeah, I mean.
No, I'm saying if Burrow is 10, I'm fine having the 11th or 12th best quarterback and taking one of these and taking Henry Ruggs because, for example, Henry Ruggs is in my top 10. So I'd rather take Ruggs and then, like I said, have the 11th or 12th or even 13th best quarterback. Because
while you're moving over to Ruggs, why don't we transition to that then? How about this? Let me ask you a question then, as you've already answered. But who wasn't in who's in your top 10 that wasn't in our consensus? And you're saying, would Henry Ruggs be on that list?
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, he would be in my top 10. I mean, this guy, like I say, he was drafted 12th overall. You saw Tyrell Williams go into that offense, and he put up some good games. And obviously, I think Henry Ruggs is much more talented. They do have Brian Edwards also. They drafted a couple of guys. They have Hunter Renfrow. And how good is Derek Carr? I think he's fine. I think he's a little bit underrated compared to what other people think. But if you look at Ruggs, he's the fastest guy in this draft by far. He's got great hands. He has those big hands everyone was raving about. He had just over 120 targets, and he only had 3 drops. All right, that's very good. He plays physical for his size. He can high point the ball. He also had a 42-inch vertical. He might have some trouble with some more physical cornerbacks in the NFL, but his speed can kind of mask that, and he can figure that out. He was 3rd all time for Alabama with touchdowns for his career there. And another thing that I'm looking at for wide receivers when you're trying to predict how they're going to adjust to the NFL, you're also looking at are they bringing in those touchdowns? Are they making those plays? And he's a big play guy who can get those touchdowns and yeah, I think he's going to do great there.
Well, who's going to give him the ball is the problem.
That's the question with me. You got Derek Carr there now, but we all know that John Gruden loves Mariota for some reason. That's
yeah.
The thing. Can you trust Gruden? I feel like they're all over the place with what they're doing. They acquired all these draft picks by making all these trades and stuff, by trading middle linebacker, drawing a blank.
Khalil Mack. Yeah,
Khalil Mack. And then they acquire all these draft picks, but then they just replace these players that they could have had all these superstars. They had Amari Cooper, traded him away. Can you trust them? I feel like they're all over the place. Him and Mayock.
Yeah, I feel like they wanted to go ground up though, and that's why they wanted to get Mariota because Mayock had him as his number 1 quarterback in 2015.
Yeah,
and Derek Carr, neither of them drafted, so I don't know. Everything's fresh.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, Gruden signed a big, long contract there. They said they were starting over. They were getting rid of what was there, and they got their guys. Yeah, Mike Mayock was a draft expert before he started there with the Raiders.
Yeah, draft expert.
I'm had some questionable picks so far, but yeah, no, I hear you.
Yes, but still, everybody, he was on ESPN or wherever it was. He was.
Eric, you could be on ESPN too.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
No,
But what I'm saying is, he took this guy as the number 1 wide receiver, 12th overall. They're gonna use him.
they're definitely going to use him, Eric. That's where
I will.
I'm scared when it comes to the quarterback situation. So we all agree that it takes a little longer for wide receivers to adjust to develop in the NFL. Now, if this year blows up in their face with Derek Carr and Mariota, are they going to draft another quarterback? How long is it going to take to develop that quarterback? How long is it going to take to get chemistry between him and Higgins? I'm not Higgins. I'm sorry.
Ruggs.
Where this is why I have Higgins at number 11 is where they drafted their quarterback, and then they drafted a wide receiver the same year as they drafted Burrow. They're going to develop them together and develop that chemistry. So now, is Ruggs going to get that? Is Ruggs going to take extra years to develop because he's waiting on that quarterback to develop?
All right, yeah, that's
Very
a fair
true.
point. That's a fair point. I guess for me, I'm just a little bit higher on Derek Carr than consensus. I do think he's a pretty good guy. He was playing through some
Then the Oakland
injuries.
Raiders.
I'm
Vegas Raiders.
high on Derek Carr.
Yeah, he hasn't had very good weapon. I mean, he had Amari Cooper obviously, but those
Derek
first
Carr
couple years he was pretty good.
Yeah,
He was.
Yeah, but it was a different team, different roster, different system that I just don't think that they can't get his ceiling and they can get it with Mariota. And I think another team that thinks they can get the ceiling out of another player is the Bengals with T. Higgins. Why don't you talk about him, Keenan?
Well, pretty much I just love that they drafted a quarterback and a wide receiver to go with the weapons that they have there. They're going to develop these two guys together, and they're going to hope that both of them in 2 years, 3 years or so are the two superstars of their team. He's going to go in there. He's going to learn from AJ Green, Tyler Boyd. I feel he had a great college. He played great in Clemson. He's a big wide receiver. I just don't. I'd rather take my chances with him, I guess. And me, Eric. Before the draft, I was not a big Higgins fan until the landing spot with Cincinnati. I feel like they have him surrounded by so many weapons where he doesn't need to be that number one right away. Where Oakland is a few years behind, and they're going to rely on why can't I get this guy's name? Oh my God. What was the
Ruggs?
guy? Ruggs, yeah. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Where they're going to rely on Ruggs right away, and where Higgins is going to have that luxury of developing with proven veterans around him. That's why I have him at number 11. But it's a coin flip. Who knows?
Yeah, he can be really good there. A lot of people did comp him to AJ Green, so it's kind of funny that he went there and he's going to learn under him for a year. So I really do like that for him. Pre-draft, I did have Higgins as my 5th receiver, so I'm not necessarily low on him. I think this just shows how deep this class really is at wide receiver. But yeah, he's a guy who he can be that number 1 guy. Do I think he's necessarily going to be that in the NFL? Maybe developing for a year under Green, he could pick some things up and really break out next year and be something good. But we'll see how that goes.
We'll have to revisit this conversation in 3 years.
In 3 years?
Yeah.
I don't think AJ Green's going to be there after this year, though.
Well, no,
so
I'm saying which rookie wide receiver is going to have a better development and be better.
Yeah, I think Higgins definitely needs some time, but I think he'll be really good in the end zone. I think he'll have a nice impact. I think he'll be kind of like what Mike Williams is doing with the Chargers the last few years. I think that's what T. Higgins will provide, at least till he gets his feet wet.
All right, he's Higgins and Ruggs. Why don't you tell us about your guy?
Yeah, I got Laviska Shenault. He's the wide receiver drafted at Jacksonville, and I actually think he's in line to potentially see the most targets of any rookie this season. He's 6'1", 227. He's out of Colorado, so he doesn't have that big name school. Ran a 4.58 40, but I mean the guy just he shows production with the team. In 2018 was his best year. He had 55% of the team's offense. He actually had 7 rushing touchdowns as well that year. So I mean the guy did everything. There was a 7-game stretch where he had 70 catches, 882 yards, and 6 touchdowns. I mean, that's 100 yards and 100. Sorry, that's 10 catches and 170 yards a game. So that's kind of crazy, and almost a touchdown. He went off. So I think that there's a chance that in Jacksonville he's going to pair well with DJ Chark, whether it's Minshew or whomever they see going forward. I don't necessarily have to trust him, but I think if Shenault can see 120 targets, which I think is possible, he can get 70 catches. And with 70 catches, I think that he can get close to 1,000 yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. But they let go of a few wide receivers this offseason. They did some cleanup and they'll roll with him, Conley, and DJ Chark.
How upset were you when he got drafted in the second round, a little before the Bills?
Who, Shenault?
Yeah.
I knew the Bills probably weren't going to go Shenault. So, I mean, he's excited. I mean, really, I would love that they got Swift. That would have been great too.
Yeah.
But, that would have been nice. I think he would have been a good piece. But, no, I'm really excited to see what Shenault can do. I'm not overly excited he went to Jacksonville, but target-wise, I think he can produce kind of as Chark has been doing. And so let's move over just to another quick question about the running backs. Who do you think has the worst timeshare for 2020 of these running backs?
The worst timeshare is probably going to be J.K. Dobbins. He is my number 2 running back, but that's for dynasty purposes. So, I mean, this year is going to be rough with Mark Ingram there. Ingram's on the other side of 30. I think he's going to start slowing down. I do think Dobbins could even take him over this year potentially, but it's going to take some time, and you're going to be a little bit frustrated in the beginning half of the year for sure.
I'm sorry here. I have Swift. I think, they already invested a second-round pick in Kerryon and now a second-round pick in Swift, where I feel like they're going to use Kerryon if he's not traded. That's why I feel no matter what, they're going to have to use Kerryon. They're not just going to let him sit on the sidelines. So I think there's a little issue there for this year. But I think by next year, Swift will be the number 1 for sure. I don't think Kerryon is there. Just like, J.K. Dobbins probably takes over Ingram this year or next year. So eventually, I feel like both of these would be true number 1s. And I think Ingram, if they cut him, it's a low cap hit. So look for a surprise cut at training camp if Dobbins produces early.
Yeah, they could save $4 million if post June 1st cut. So
maybe even before training camp opens.
Yeah, it'd be real interesting to see if or when that does happen. But I do have J.K. Dobbins as well, like Eric. But I kind of think that's with that expectation that Ingram's gone as well, but that Lamar Jackson's still there and Justice Hill's there. So I think that he's going to always be sharing with Lamar, which will kind of be a struggle. But as long as they can keep running as much as they do, he'll always, kind of get his. But, I'm intrigued to see what happens during this offseason with all these backs. That's for sure. And that's going to wrap up our top 10. That's going to wrap up all of our rankings for our show today. Our inaugural number 1 is Keenan starts sipping on that champagne.
Yeah, I opened it up a little earlier. It went everywhere, but, we've been working hard, so I figured I'd get, the finest here, J. Roger, $4.99 from the local liquor store here. So, I just want to, toast to you guys and toast to our listeners. I think our first show went real well, and
absolutely.
I'm looking forward to producing more shows in the future with you guys. So toast to you
Let's do
guys.
it. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, cheers. I'm really excited for more to come. And with that, I think we're gonna wrap up tonight's episode. So welcome everybody to the Mafia. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I can't wait until next time.
Absolutely.
So anything else we got from you fellas?
Nothing.
Huh?
Everyone be safe out there, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Cool. All right, guys. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. You can follow the podcast at Dynasty Mafia _FF. You can follow me at Antonio _Denisi. That's DONISI. You can follow Eric at Eric Denisi and Keenan at Keenan _716. Mafia out.